Dumela, hello, and welcome to this first of its kind Knowledge Systems Initiative. Our team has come together to present to you this cultural heritage series. Now, because culture in itself is dynamic, diverse, vast, and often open to interpretation, we have zoned in on Botswana's cultural anthropology, focusing on the naming of each and every single location around our nation. In the words of Shakespeare, what's in a name? The great poet claims nothing at all. I beg to differ, and so do Botswana. Kana Botswana o rile, ina lebe ke soro. Now this can loosely translate to mean you are as you speak, you are what you speak. In essence, there's everything in a name. A name is feeling, is power, is information. This is hashtag #It'sBotswana, hashtag #NoBotswana, a heritage series in which we will be going around the whole country, engaging with Bohosi, village elders, and cultural gatekeepers, respectively, finding out from them what the different places in this country's names mean and how they actually came about. In our first episode, we are right here in the heart of the nation, the capital city, Gaborone. Now, when I was a youngster, before I leave there, mosadi mogolo tla ba nthata ngwanaka wa bontse wela ko Gaborone kana go kwa ga go bidiwe Gaborone ke Gaborone bogosi bo ba rona ba Batlokwa ga bo re rone. And I never took it to mind. I'd just chuckle and say my goodbyes. Years later, it comes back like a flood, and here we find ourselves. We sit down with renowned Botswana historian Dr. Jeff Ramsay to expound and share with us about this name of the city of Gaborone. Dumela, Dr. Ramsay.
Dumela.
Thank you for your time, sir, for participating. Kindly introduce yourself to Botswana and all of our other viewership. This is in terms of who you are, where you're from, and what your affiliation would be with the city of Gaborone, our capital city.
Okay, well, my name is Jeff Ramsay. I was born in the States. I'm a citizen of Botswana. I'm a Mokwe of Batlokwa, and I've lived most of my life here, but as you may see from my accent, there is some North American roots. Be that as it may, Gaborone is also really my home. It has been my home since 1984. I've lived in other parts of Botswana as well. And I consider myself first and foremost a history teacher. I have occupied positions in government and other things, but it's history that I keep coming back to.
All right, that's wonderful. So this name, Gaborone, the name of our capital city, where does it stem from? What's the cultural anthropology of this name? What does it mean? And if you may, when was it officially registered?
Okay. Well, the name is derived from Kosi Gaborone, the Gaborone, the first of Batlokwa.
Mm-hmm.
He died in, I think it was 1931 or 32. And he had lived to be over a century by the time he passed away. So at that time, he was the Kosi of Batlokwa who were living in Tlokwing. But the area has been occupied, that is the area that encompasses modern city of Gaborone, on and off for centuries, maybe millennia. And at times, different settlements here have had different names. Mushwa Weng, I may not be pronouncing that quite properly, but that was the name that was commonly used for this place when the Batlokwa resettled the place in 1888. They had been just across the border, and they were invited back here with the understanding of the Botswana, who were still claiming political control, territorial control in the area. So that was right at the beginning of the colonial era. The protectorate had been proclaimed in 1885, and the resettlement was in 1888, and by mutual agreement between Batlokwa and Botswana, and everything was more or less fine. There was no colonial presence really until 1891, when the British decided to establish a paramilitary police camp at what's now the village section of Gaborone. And so it was where they based also the magistrate for the Southern Protectorate. It was put there in 1891 because there was rising tension between the colonial regime and Decosi, and the context of the Decosi were trying to hold on to their powers, and the regime is trying to, at this point, to more formalize colonial control in the context of the Botswana Protectorate, as we were then being used as a base for the conquest of southern Rhodesia, as it would become today Zimbabwe, and Zambia, or what would become northern Rhodesia. So you had the British South Africa Company of Rose exercising enormous influence and creating a lot of tension. And the police were really under the thumb of Rose through his right-hand man, if you like, Sir Sidney Shepherd, who was the administrator of the Crown Colony of Botswana, which was south of the Malopo River, and was today South Africa, and the Botswana Protectorate, that is today's Botswana. So this is some of the historical context. Now, they called that camp Gaboronies, or well, it became known as Gaboronies, but it was from Gaborone. But it became more formalized in 1897, in fact, precisely 1897, when the railway was extended from Mahikeng to Gaborone on its way up to Bulawayo, to the very same rail line we have today. It was built in quite a short time, and across the railway they had stops. In those days, steam engines needed to regularly get water and wood, or later coal, to operate. So many of the stops were named after the local Decosi. So you have Batwain nearby Lobasi today. We have Sibili Mall and Sibili Farm close to where Sibili's stop was. So between Batwain's stop and Sibili's stop there was Gaborone, but it became, because of the G spelling, to the English Gaboronies stop. And that's even the apostrophe S in the original spelling, which then the apostrophe falls out, but people were talking about it as Gaboronies for a very long time. And if you look at the colonial maps and even colonial era signs, it was Gaboronies. You could say Gaboronies if you want, but it was spelled in a particular way which we don't use now because we've reverted to more proper Setswana orthography. We call it Gaborone, and it is indeed connected to that particular Kosi, who is the namesake of the dynasty.